Welcome to another episode of the Yellow Jacket Experience, and today I am joined by sophomore wrestler Jacob Marselii. Jacob comes to us out of Tallinn, Connecticut. He is a political science major and member of our wrestling team. Jacob, really great to have you here today.
Thanks.
So let's start. You were a wrestler in high school. You also were a football player. I want to go back even further, though. I guess, how did you first get into both of those sports? And were there any others that you were into growing up as a small child?
Well, for wrestling, I was about 10 years old and I was born premature. I've always been on the smaller side. So, I kind of got into it because some family friends told me about like a wrestling club in Connecticut. And it was actually in Willimantic, Connecticut. It was called Silverback Wrestling Club. And I ended up going there and tried it out. And what I liked a lot about it is like you wrestle in like a preferred weight class. So it wasn't like I was outsized like in football. I kind of faced people similar in size to me, so it was more fair. And I pretty much just stuck. I like did good my first year, and I stuck with it ever since. And freshman and sophomore year of high school, I played football mainly for the aspect of trying to like learn how to lift and get a little bigger. Because, like I said, I've always been on the smaller side. But yeah.
So, as a high school wrestler, Connecticut state champion, what was that experience like for you getting through the Connecticut state tournament and being the one at the end to have your arm lifted up as the best of the best?
It was definitely it was a great experience. I learned a lot, and I really developed in high school, like wrestling wise. I won the Class S title, the sectional titles 2 times, and my wrestling wasn't exactly like up to par then. I'm still always getting better each day, but I found specifically in my last year of college, I've really developed and learned so much more from like my teammates and my coach. They help me out each day.
So, a lot of Connecticut natives on the AIC roster. I think we have 8 wrestlers from Connecticut. I know AIC is not alone in having a lot of wrestlers from the Nutmeg State. What makes wrestling in Connecticut so special? Why is it such a big thing?
Well, I think a lot of the people that come from Connecticut up to here, it's like we kind of have a feeder program with the Silverback Wrestling Club. A lot of the guys on the team I've actually like grown up wrestling with, and they kind of taught me how to wrestle. So I feel like a big reason we're able to pull them in is because we know a lot of them, and we can pull them in from Connecticut.
How did you end up connecting with AIC? What made you decide, this is where I want to go to continue my academic career and my wrestling career?
2 of my coaches at the Silverback Wrestling Club really convinced me to come here. One was my teammate's father, Jose Gonzalez, his father, Baltazar Gonzalez, and also AIC alumni Rafael Calixto, who wrestled here. They both really, really convinced me in my senior season to come here. And I liked the idea because I was coming back up here with my teammates Jojo, Sean Johnson, my other teammate Raul, and I felt like it was like a brotherhood. I grew up knowing them. I kind of look up to them, so I felt like it was a great fit for me here because I kind of knew people already. And
What was it like wrestling for Rafael Calixto? Obviously, he's an AIC Hall of Famer and All-American here. What's it like learning from somebody like that?
it was great. It was very technical. He taught me all sorts of little things in different positions, and I tried to listen to him and pick up on a lot of the things, especially in my senior year. But his practices are also very hard, I will say.
Now, obviously, it's a big jump to go from high school to college, no matter what the sport is. What was that transition from high school wrestling, club wrestling, to collegiate wrestling like for you? And you mentioned the things that you've learned in your first year. What are some of those things that'll help you as you head into your second season?
Well, the first thing I learned is in college wrestling compared to high school wrestling, everything is a lot faster and more aggressive, and it's a lot more. The rules are different. You have to be more aware, like mad aware of where you are and your surroundings, what you're doing, and the other big jump for me is size. I'm very undersized compared to a lot of my opponents, so I struggle like in that area, but it was just a whole level jump. There's a lot more chain wrestling, which I personally really wasn't ready for at first, and I'm still trying to develop that. So,
Now, you mentioned the weight classes. You wrestle at 125. There's 10 different classes all the way up to 285. What are the similarities and differences in both the training for it and kind of the style of wrestling at the different classes? Like, the way that you would approach training or a match compared to somebody who's in, say, the 197-pound class.
Well, I think there's a big difference because a lot of the people at my weight, it's very, very fast, a lot of speed. I would say, especially with the lighter weights, where like the heavier weights, it's a lot more strength and tying up and control in the head and stuff like that. But there's also a lot of speed and level change and movement too. But it's just a little bit different at 125. They're a lot faster, I'd say, in a sense.
Now, you mentioned you've wrestled with a lot of your current teammates before. Jose Gonzalez, obviously a name that you brought up, and clearly a fantastic wrestler, regional champion last year. What have you learned from wrestling with somebody like him?
With someone like him, I learned to not make mistakes because he capitalizes on them all the time. If I make a mistake, I'm going to get taken down. If I make a mistake, I'm going to get turned and give up points. So, and then he always teaches me, him and Sean Johnson lately, they always tell me where I go wrong, and I try to listen to them and fix my positioning. So I try and get as much as I can out of them.
Now let's switch gears here. Let's get off the mat for a minute. You're a political science major. What led you into that major? What do you want to do with it for a career?
Well, growing up, my father would always listen to AM radio, and on this AM radio and like the Talk Connecticut in particular, NPR, they'd always discuss different issues, debates, topics, kind of like politics. And at first I would kind of like fall asleep when I was really little during them, but as I grew older, I would find them interesting and want to like learn and like hear what they had to say. So that kind of was my drive to go with political science when I came here. And I also liked how AIC offered political science. And with that, I plan on going to law school after AIC for 3 years. So I feel like learning to debate and talk and stuff like that will help me with a law degree and possibly becoming an attorney.
Eventually to become an attorney. That's certainly an impressive goal. And you've had a lot of success academically. Your first year and a half, you were named a Scholar All-American by the National Wrestling Coaches Association as a freshman. What was the academic experience like for you your first year of college and now into your second year, especially given the impact of the pandemic? Maybe are there any professors or courses you feel like have been particularly impactful on you early in your collegiate academic career?
Yeah, definitely the experience is a lot different last year opposed to this year. But personally, I really feel like a lot of my professors, nearly all of them, AIC staff, my coach, they all impact me academically. I see my coach for when I have like a lot of work, I need to schedule things. I talk to professors all the time. I look up to them. I try and get all the advice they can give me out of them after class. I try and listen to him. Even President Maniaci, I always try and talk to him and see what he has to offer for advice, and I try to listen. But academically, my freshman year, I'd say, I don't think she's here anymore. Professor, I forget her name. I'm sorry. She was in the political science department, but she ended up leaving, and she taught me a lot. But, her and then Professor Corey also in a international, like a diverse cultures class. He really taught me a lot too.
Would it have been Professor Walsh by any chance?
Yes, it was Professor Walsh.
I majored in history as an undergrad. I had a lot of classes with Professor Walsh. Absolutely amazing professor. Let's shift it up again, though. We know you're a wrestler. We know you're, in tune academically. What's something, a talent, an interest that you have that if people only knew Jacob Marselii, the wrestler, they wouldn't know about?
Surprisingly, I'm pretty good at surfing and skimboarding. I spend a lot of my summers at the beach, so I'm doing that a lot, and I grew up doing both those activities. So
now, surfing obviously requires a lot of coordination, a lot of balance, something that I'm not graced with either of. How does your experience as a surfer maybe help you as a wrestler, given that all of the movement that's required for both?
Well, like you said, you got to have balance and coordination, obviously, and you got to kind of have experience with it and know what you're doing in different circumstances. Like there's all sorts of different waves. There's small one, big one. Sometimes it doesn't work out and you wipe out. Where like in wrestling, you're always in different circumstances as well, and you have to be balanced and coordinated.
So one question we ask everybody who comes on the podcast, other than your parents, because I think pretty much everybody would give that as the answer. So other than your parents, who is someone who's had a significant impact on your life, and how have they influenced who you are as a person?
I could never just say it's one person. I feel like, I mean, I think definitely recently in the last year would be almost all the staff I've reached out to and come in contact at AIC. And if I was going to go into particulars, it'd be President Maniaci, my coach Rich Hassenfuss, and all my professors, especially Professor Payne. She's really helped me last semester and taught me a lot. All these professors, they like every day, they always want to work with me. They're always willing, and they help me grow. So
Jill McCarthy Payne, the head of the Criminal Justice Department here at AIC, our faculty athletics representative, phenomenal. Seems like everybody who's even like tangentially around the Criminal Justice Department, which you would be as a political science major if you want to be an attorney, always says that she's had such an influence. Can you maybe speak a little bit specifically to her and what she's done for you?
well, I had her for the first time last semester. I was always coming to Amaron, and I'd try and do my work in this classroom because I like working at a desk. And she was in the room below me, so I'd often, in between classes, go talk to her about law school, and she taught me so much with that. Like I was kind of lost in the process. She gave me the phone number of the dean of the Western New England Law School to ask more questions. She'd give me like different people to reach out to, and then regarding class, like if I ever had a question, I'd obviously go talk to her about it, and she'd help me explain things more in depth and better. And not only that, like I just found her class to be very organized, and I was able to pick up on it really well. And I got a lot out of the class. So.
It's Jacob Marselli from the AIC wrestling team. Jacob, thanks for joining us here on the Yellow Jacket Experience.
Thank you for having me.